Offered a plea deal by the FBI, William O'Neill infiltrates the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party to gather intelligence on the chairman, Fred Hampton. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new movie review, and today we're discussing the biographical drama Judas and the Black Messiah, which was a film I was highly anticipating, got a chance to see it at Sundance, and I'm going to let you all know what I thought about the film and if you all should check it out in the spoiler-free review. But before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts, which you can find all those links in the description below. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It really helps out the channel, but I also appreciate the support. And in the comments below, this film doesn't come out to everyone to check out till February 12th on HBO Max as well as in theaters, but let me know your anticipation level for this film. And once you've seen it, let's discuss it all. Your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances, the direction, the story. Did this film move you? Let's have a discussion about it in the comments below. So for me, I was anticipating it. I love these actors. I'm really interested in learning more about Fred Hampton. Here we are discussing this film, starting out with the positives. Again, no spoilers, but I want to start things off discussing the story. Now, immediately, we're thrown into Chicago, 1968. We get to see this real footage of what was going on during that time. And one thing that I appreciated right off the bat was, in school, we only knew one thing about the Black Panthers, and that was like the negative side of the Black Panthers and all the stuff that surrounded them. But in this film, you get to see the positive side and what Fred Hampton and the Black Panthers meant to the community of Chicago. And we get to see them offering free food to kids. We get educational courses. We get them being part of the Fred Hampton, and particularly starting off the Rainbow Coalition. And immediately you get to see the FBI and in particularly J. Edgar Hoover looked at that unity that was being created in the community as a threat, not only to a threat to Chicago, but a threat to the nation. And the stuff we see the FBI do in this film is absolutely despicable. Transitioning into something I'm going to be bringing up a lot in this review. This is a famous quote. I believe it was Alexander Hamilton that said this in the 1700s, but the quote is, "Stand for something or fall for anything." And that's something I really want to touch on, and particularly when we're focusing on our two main characters, Fred Hampton, played by Daniel Kaluuya, and Lakeith Stanfield, that plays Bill O'Neill. We see two sides of the coin. We see how Fred, he stood for something. He was willing to put his life on the line for this cause, to fight for his people, to make change for not only today, but for the future of his community. And then you look at the other side of that with Bill. He didn't believe in anything. During this time of the civil rights movement and the struggle going on, how did he feel about the death of Martin Luther King? How did he feel about Malcolm X going out and being assassinated? He didn't really care too much per se, without getting into the spoilers. But he doesn't believe in something. You can see how it was easy for him to betray Fred and betray his own people. And that's something I really want to touch on in this review. Again, you either stand for something or you fall for anything, which, going back to the story, again, you have FBI agent that's assigned to this case, Roy Mitchell, I should say, played by Jesse Plemons, who catches O'Neill in the act of trying to steal someone's car. Now, O'Neill, he impersonates an FBI agent. He's taken in from stealing his car, and the FBI give him a choice. You know, what you did can land you at least 1 year for stealing a car, or we can give you 5 years for impersonating an FBI agent. So I'll give you a choice. I want you to be a part of the informant program, and I want you to take down and get information on Fred Hampton. And that's really where the story takes place, and seeing the FBI making the strategy to take down the Black Panthers, to crumble this community, crumble the unity that was going on, and taking down the Black Messiah, Fred Hampton. So going into these performances, starting off with Bill O'Neill, played by Lakeith Stanfield, it was really interesting seeing this character because right off the bat, you see him weaponizing the badge. He says very early on in this film that he gets asked by the FBI agent, played by Jesse Plemons, Roy, why not just use a gun and just, steal a car like anyone else would? Well, his response was, well, I know the badge is more powerful than a gun. And that line right there just shows you what Bill was like. You see that kind of side that made you hate Bill. It's just like he knew he could weaponize the badge and what that meant to the Black community. He used that to his advantage. Again, going into this character here, and the performance by Lakeith Stanfield is incredible because he does two things in this movie. You hate this character. Again, the decision he makes to betray his own people, to do what he did to Fred. But then you have scenes with Lakeith Stanfield, he plays it so beautifully, where you feel bad for him, especially when he's sharing the screen with Roy's character. And I personally felt like remorse. I felt like he was being manipulated at times. So it was really kind of interesting to see that kind of duality in the Bill character, the bad side, the decisions he made, not believing in something, how he can fall into the trap of betraying his own people. But then you see how they were manipulating him, how they were using him to make this happen. So I thought Lakeith, again, I've said it a bunch of times on this channel, he's one of the best up-and-coming actors, whether it be TV roles, supporting roles, leading roles. He is a chameleon in anything that he's in. I thought he was fantastic as Bill O'Neill in this film. And then transitioning into the other lead of this film, and that's Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton, the Black Messiah. First off, their chemistry on screen, this is 2 for 2, whether it be Get Out, whether it be this film. I can't wait to see more movies with them in it and them going back and forth. But whenever Daniel Kaluuya was on screen as Fred Hampton, he had my complete attention. His performance as Fred Hampton was incredible. Again, he stood for something. He stood for change. He stood for making a change in his community with the Black Panther movement. And again, he wasn't just thinking about today. He was thinking about tomorrow and in the future and what it meant to make change, to be a part of change, bringing people together. The way that he spoke, the way that he moved people. He could move mountains with his voice. You see the revolutionary culture that he was trying to create, which was freedom. You see Fred Hampton being able to speak to different groups of Chicago, whether that be the Young Patriots organization, whether that be different gangs in Chicagoland area, the Young Lords, the Crowns. He was able to bring these people together to create the Rainbow Coalition. He was able to bring people together to fight for a greater cause other than themselves, to have a purpose of fighting for something to make change. And again, the way that Dan Kaluuya was able to portray Fred Hampton, which again, you get to see Fred Hampton, like the real footage, and you get to see the cadence in his voice, the performance, the way he carried himself. Dan Kaluuya is not only a lock for Best Actor being nominated, it's like a guarantee. I would love for him to win. I hope he wins, but this is a performance of a lifetime. This young man, Daniel Kaluuya, has always impressed me. Him and Lakeith Stanfield, everything I see in the man is fantastic, but this performance by Daniel Kaluuya, it's a life performance. It is a performance of a lifetime for sure. I also want to highlight some other performances in this film. You have Dominique Fishback as Deborah Johnson, who is the supportive character. She's in a supporting role. She's the girlfriend of Fred Hampton. She's carrying his child, and I liked her performance. To me, Dominique does a lot with a little. She's not given that much, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but what she does give us is that kind of kindness, that love story that surprised me. It's a love story in this film, because this film is a tragedy, but it's a love story at the same time, and I really enjoyed the back and forth that she had with Fred. Again, she loves this man, but he's willing to put his life on the line, which means it can affect her life, her unborn child's life, so there's a lot that she gives us in this performance. Again, she does a lot with a little in this role, and I thought she was fantastic, and I'm really impressed by her and everything I've seen her in so far. Transitioning to some other smaller roles, but they were small roles, but they still impacted me. Characters like Jimmy Palmer and Jake Winters, played by Aston Sanders and Algie Smith. I thought they were, again, small roles, but they had a really good impact on the story. I think of other characters like the character that Dominique Thorne played. I believe her character was Judy Harmon. Dominique Thorne, very little small time, but a lot that she did with her character, and I'm so excited to see her career. This is my first time seeing Dominique Thorne in anything, and I'm so excited to see what she's going to do in the MCU, playing Riri Williams as Ironheart. I thought she was great. Again, even the little small roles, they have an impact and left an impact on me. I got to transition into the direction of this film. You have a first-time director making his directorial debut. You have Shaka King, and you also have some writers being a part of this, the Lucas brothers, as well as you have Will Barson, who was a part of the script. Not too familiar with them as writers. I know who the Lucas brothers are, and going to Shaka, I was beyond impressed by this directorial debut. Now, I do have some issues with some of the creative decisions made by the direction as well as the writing, but there are definitely more pros than cons when it comes to the direction and the writing of this film. Transitioning into the look of the movie, you have Sean Bobbitt, who was the cinematographer behind The Place Beyond the Pines, 12 Years a Slave. The way that he positions the camera in this movie, the way he's capturing Fred Hampton, the way he was able to capture the performance and how he gave the speech was absolutely fantastic, and the framing was incredible. The music in this movie, the use of horns and the way it brought you into the story, I thought the composers were absolutely fantastic. And I want to touch on some things that really moved me, and particularly scenes that just stuck with me. And I won't go into spoilers, but I'll just say the speeches that Fred Hampton gave, the speech that he gave while coming out of prison. Again, this is all factual stuff. I'm not spoiling too much, but the speech he gave about killing the pigs and how that shook things up, and in particularly how that fractured and kind of put some tension in his relationship with Deborah Johnson's character. I thought that scene of him just speaking truth and just speaking his connection to Emmett Till, the connection that he had with Deborah, and the scene that she's reading him the poem that she wrote, that scene that stood out to me. Those scenes I just mentioned were fantastic. I know a lot of people have been mentioning the word masterpiece, and I don't think the entire film is a masterpiece, but I think the third act of this movie is incredible, and I think it's legit a masterpiece the way that they wrap up this film, and particularly Bill's decision, his final decision, the scene that he shares with Roy, and the brief scene that Bill has with another character involving a bar and a newspaper. Lakeith Stanfield in that role, and in particularly the callback of the badge in that scene, jaw-dropping performance in that moment. And then a moment that it was hard for me to sleep after seeing this film, in particularly because of the raid scene. It was hard to look at. I couldn't really look at the screen at times. I was emotional. I was crying during that moment. I won't lie. No shame in that. It moved me. It is a scene that will always stick with me. And I thought that the way that they handled the raid scene was masterful. I thought the framing of the shots, Dominique Fishback in that moment, the moment leading up to it, the scene as a whole was just incredible. And again, I'm putting it down in my notes. I thought it was a masterpiece from an hour and 39 minutes and 31 seconds until we got into the end credits. That 40-minute time span, masterful, craftful filmmaking. And then kind of wrapping things up when we see the end credits in regards to really, what happened in the doc series that took place in 1990. I believe it was titled Eyes of the Prize 2. And when you see what Bill slept with that night and what happened to Bill, it was just very shocking, and just kind of puts the pieces to the puzzle together to see how he felt about what he did. So those are some, I have a lot more positive to say, but I don't want this to be an hour long, but those are some things that really stood out to me. So transitioning to some of my criticisms here, this is the one thing that I thought was legitimately really bad about this film, and that is Martin Sheen as J. Edgar Hoover. I understand the importance of the character. I didn't like the performance by Martin Sheen, and I hated the prosthetics. I'll just leave it at that. I thought that was the one terrible thing about this film. But going into some things that really did, it wasn't terrible, but things I wish would have been better in regards to the story and direction. I mentioned the performances of the women in this film. Both Dominiques were great performances. They both did a lot from giving a little, but I wanted more from those characters. I'm thinking of Deborah Johnson, her boyfriend going to jail, what that meant from her life with the Panthers, her having this child, what it meant to have the child of Fred Hampton. I wanted more of those scenes. Again, Dominique Thorne as her character, I want to learn more about her. So I just wish the women were more involved in the story, because they were very influential and very important to the Black Panther Party. So I wish we would have gotten more from the women in this film. Transitioning into some other things that I wish was a little bit more involved in the film. Whenever Dominique, Lakeith, and Daniel Kaluuya weren't on screen, I felt like the impactful moments weren't as impactful from when they were in the movie. And it wasn't that the film got bad or terrible. I just wish that those supporting characters and their subplots were just a little bit more stronger than what they were. And then going into this thing here, I want to mention, when you have these biographical films, it's a tough balancing act, because you, number one, have to be true and authentic to the people, the real story that went on, but at the same time, you still have to make a movie. So for me, I don't know if this is a matter of they don't know if these things happen, they don't know if these conversations happen, but there were some moments that I wish we would have gotten more of, in particularly Fred and Bill's relationship. We get scenes of them having somewhat of a brotherhood and their friendship, but I wanted more of that. I wanted to really feel like they were best friends, and that this betrayal was the biggest betrayal that happened to Fred. I wish we would have gotten more of those two actors. Again, Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield are fantastic, so I wish they would have shared more scenes as a brotherhood, as well as I wanted to see more of Bill by himself. I want to see him tackling with this decision. You get a couple scenes here and there. He wants to get out of the informant program, a couple times, but I wanted more of that. I want to see that struggle. I want to see him. He has a nightmare. I want to dive deeper into him going to sleep with this burden on his chest. I wanted more of those scenes, as well as learning more about Bill's lifestyle. He's an informant getting paid, and during this time, the money he was getting paid, he was dressing well. He had a nice little situation. What was the home like? Why weren't people questioning him more? There's a scene when they do question how he comes about getting the car, but I want to learn more about him being on the edge of are you really a Black Panther? I want to explore that side of the character a little bit more. And then Fred Hampton, I wish the movie, this isn't Fred Hampton's story. I want to let you all know this is more about Bill's story, Bill O'Neill's story, and then how he was involved with Fred Hampton. But this isn't necessarily a Fred Hampton movie. This is something that we've really not gotten before. There's not a lot of Fred Hampton movies. There's a lot of docs about him, but not a movie. This film makes me want a Fred Hampton movie. I want to see more of his beginnings growing up in Maywood. I'm from Bellwood, so I've heard of Fred Hampton. I know about some of his stuff, not as much as I learned about in this film, but I wanted to see him growing up in Maywood, moving to Louisiana, going to the NAACP, going up to the rankings of the Black Panther. I wish we would have gotten more of that in this film. Again, it would have been 4 hours if it did that, but I want to see more of that with the Fred Hampton character. So those are my criticisms. Again, the one thing I hated was the look of Martin Sheen, but those other things, I wish the story was a little bit more impactful with the supporting characters, the subplots, more of the brotherhood between Fred and Bill. Those things I wish was a little bit more fleshed out. But nonetheless, before I give you all my overall thoughts, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. That way you can get the alert from when I drop new content. With that being said, let me give you all my overall thoughts and my score for Judith and the Black Messiah. So overall, I've said it a couple times in this review, this film shows you again, you either stand for something or you can fall for anything. And we see that with Fred Hampton. He stood behind the Black Panther Party and what it meant to be a Black Panther and support the community, how he had a purpose to serve. It was something bigger to him. He didn't just live for today, he lived for the future of his people. And I thought that was so great and handled well within that story. I want a little bit more, but flipping on the other side of the coin, when you don't stand for something, you fall for something. And we see that with Bill's character, how he was able to portray Fred Hampton, the Black Panthers. He didn't believe anything, but he was able to see what Fred was able to do, and he struggled with it. I wanted more of that struggle, but you see the two sides of the coin. And again, words that come to mind with this film for me is it's a moving film. It's very timely. Again, there's a lot of correlations of how the police treated the Black community, minorities, and it's sad to say that it's timely because it means that yes, we've come far as a United States, as a people, but we still have a long way to go. So it is timely, and like I said, it's sad to kind of say that, but it's also moving. It's extremely powerful, and it is early 2021, but I think this will be one of the most impactful films of this year. With that being said, as of right now, after seeing it one time, I'm going to give this film, Judith and the Black Messiah, a 4.8 out of 5. That score maybe go up. This does come out on HBO Max on the 12th of this month. I will be rewatching it again. I'm going to look at it again. I'm going to see if those things really bothered me as much as it did the first time. So that score could go up, and this might be one of my favorite films of this year. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you all thought about this film once you've seen it. Again, your pros, your cons, your thoughts of the performances, the story. Did it move you? Did it have an impact on you like it did me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other content. Thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.